It's definitely not a week off because players practice and coaches go recruiting after they practice. Players are off for the weekend, but we felt like we had a really good open date to let some young guys get a lot of work. Hopefully they can get more playing time. Also, got to sit down and talk to every player individually about where he is and what he's looking at, and specifically, Jeremy just mentioned George Pettaway. He and his father had talked to Coach Porter, and I agree with him completely. He's not getting a lot of significant snaps right now. So take your 4 games. He can play in the bowl game. You can play a 5th game now and still redshirt. He wants to stay here. He likes it, but he also felt like that, and I agreed completely that take the year to redshirt unless there's injuries or a need for him to play more, and be smart, and then give him a year back, because we did about the same thing with him last year. He played a few more plays, but he didn't get a lot of plays, and we think he can be a good player. So that's the difference in the transfer portal and the new redshirt rules, and trying to look at years and what's best for each player. And we've had a really good conversation with every player on the team just about the NFL, just about are you happy, are you unhappy, are you thinking about transferring, who can get their degree in December, who can get their degree in May. So it was a great opportunity to sit down and have a heart-to-heart talk with all of our players.
Mack, just to clarify, sorry to interrupt you. He's going to transfer. He's going to enter the portal. Pettaway?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I don't know who you were listening to.
Well, when Jeremy said go through the spring, I thought it meant he's going to redshirt this season, go through the spring with you guys, and enter the portal.
If he feels he wants to stay, he loves it here, but he wants to play. So I think that's the biggest thing that you look at is he's going to go through the spring, meaning he's staying.
Okay. And I just want to clarify.
No, he wants to get, and I'm glad you asked. There will be some of your readers that
could be already tweeted by that.
There's no question that was. I was told when tweeting started, it's really hurt the media business, because a lot of people tweet something before the coach finishes or the media finishes, and then you say, "Oh, that's not what it is." Can I take that tweet back? It's deleted. Real fast. So yeah. But no, specifically, he was the only one that said, I would like to redshirt if possible. And if we had said, no, you need to keep playing, he would have done that. We were in total agreement with him that he will work, he'll practice, he'll plan on playing if we need him, but he will go back and compete in the spring and hope to get more plays. And that's totally fair with our running back situation. What I felt like I'd do is recap the Pitt game, the first 4 weeks, and then answer some questions for you as well. Talk a little bit about Syracuse. We're off to a great start, but we've got so many things we could improve. So I like the fact now that we've played a tough schedule. Very few people played 3 Power 5 teams, and they're out of conference. And we were in their first 4 games. And we were successful, and we've got things we can fix. If you played 4 perfect games and you're still not happy with everything, it's more difficult. But we've got a lot of things we can fix, and addressed all of those last week. I told our coaches to act like we're 0-4. And the only way to get better is if you, a lot of times when things are good, you don't correct them. You don't correct your mistakes because you feel good. You think, hey, we're doing good, man. Well, act like you lost the game, because that's when coaches start correcting things better. So 14th and 13th in the 2 polls, that'll only be significant when the college football polls come out, and then you want to be in the top 12 moving forward. That's more significant than it's been in the past. These polls aren't as important as the playoff poll. First 4-0 start since 1997. It's the second time since 1983, so it hadn't been easy for us to get off to a 4-0 start. We've only been 4-0 9 times since 1950, so it's significant. And like I said, it wasn't an easy schedule. It was a tough schedule and very physical team. So this team has answered a lot of questions in 4 weeks. There's only 17 Power 5 programs that are currently undefeated, and 4 of those are in the ACC. So again, it's not easy, or there'd be more than 17 out of 65. General thoughts on the Pitt game. We're on a 7-game road winning streak, which is the second longest active streak in college football behind Georgia, which is really significant, especially since we were 0-5 2 years ago. And the coaches and the players have completely turned that narrative around. You have to go back to the 1940s to have in 2014 to 16, we had a 9-game winning streak. But to go back to 10 games for a road winning streak, it was 1940s. So again, those aren't easy things to do, and this team has stepped up and doing some really cool things. Player of the game for the Pitt game on offense was J.J. Jones, 6 catches, 117 yards. 117 yards was a career high for him. We're really proud of J.J. When Tez didn't get to play, somebody had to step up, and J.J. has stepped up for us, and he's doing a really good job. Elijah Huzzy was obviously a tremendous transfer for us from East Tennessee State. He was the defensive player of the game. 2 interceptions, a breakup, and a tackle, and he had the 1 reception on 5 targets is all he gave up. On special teams, Elijah Huzzy was also the player of the game. 2 punt returns for 81 yards, average 40.5 yards, 52-yard touchdown, and the 29-yard return led to a touchdown. So that's the best we've returned punts around here in a while. Offensively, we're still not running the ball as effectively as we wanted to since the App State game. The last 2 defensive fronts have been good. They've really worked to stop the run. But we haven't blocked them well, and we've still been stubborn and running up inside, and we've got to figure that out. And we're looking at why we're not making yards and what can we do to make yards or do something else. Don't waste plays. And that's really important. We gave up 5 sacks, which is too many. Not all of them were the offensive lines, but we've got to go back and correct that. We were able to flip the time of possession. I looked up at the end of the first quarter, 5 minutes left in the first quarter, we haven't touched the ball. So the new clock rules, the clock's going fast, and Pittsburgh did a really good job on their first 2 drives of killing clock and keeping the ball. And the second half, we completely flipped that time of possession and took over. We did an outstanding job with the middle 10. It was huge for us. We scored 14 points to their 3, 5 minutes before the half and 5 minutes after. We wanted to finish the game better than we did in the fourth quarter. And again, we ran the ball good in the fourth quarter against Minnesota. We did not run the ball good in the fourth quarter against Pittsburgh. And I really wish we had just put the white team offense in, the second team offense in, and let them play. And we should have done that, but we were working so hard to do what we did at Minnesota and run the ball better in the 4-minute drill, and we didn't do it very well. Third downs in 2022, we were 53% successful on third downs, 28 of 53. In 23, we're 58%, 33 of 57. So we've improved significantly in that area. Red zone touchdowns through our first 4 games. Last year we had 13 touchdowns, 8 passing and 5 rushing. This year we've got 14 touchdowns, but 3 passing and 11 rushing. So we are running the ball better in the red zone, and because of that, we're doing a better job of scoring touchdowns. Quarterback rating last year for the season, Drake was 82.7 with his QBR. That was 10th nationally. This year, after 4 games, he's 87.3, 6th nationally. So Drake's doing a great job for us because we're running the ball better in the red zone. He's had a couple of guys get caught on the 1-yard line that would have been touchdown passes that we've run it in. His touchdown numbers don't look quite as good. This is also really significant. Drake is the first quarterback in North Carolina history to complete 70% of his passes in the first 4 games of the season. And that's really amazing that he's doing that. Defensively, we got off to a rough start, which we figured we would on the road. Pitt was kind of a desperate team. They'd lost the week before to a rival. They were off to a 1-2 start. Pat stirs his guys up. They play really good at home. They play great defense. They were leading their league in defense. But they took the ball down and had 2 really good drives to start the game. And Jacoby, quarterback, played really, really well in those drives, running and throwing. So after the first 2 drives, where they had run the ball, passed the ball, good balance, and kept the ball, after that, we gave 1 field goal up on the following 10 drives, 8 of which were 5 plays or less. We allowed 96 yards rushing on the first 2 drives, and they finished with 110 yards rushing. So Chiswick and the defensive staff did an outstanding job of adjusting, as they have done throughout the season, and shut Pitt down in the second half. Scoring defense in 2022, we were giving up, after 4 games last year, 39.5 points per game. Right now the defense is giving up 22 points per game. Touchdowns allowed last year, we had given up 21 touchdowns after 4 games. Right now we're giving up 10. We've only allowed 2 passing touchdowns, which is tied for second fewest nationally. Last year at this time we'd given up 14 passing touchdowns in 4 games. So again, tremendous improvement on defense in a lot of areas. Rushing defense, last year we were giving up 216 yards per game. Right now we're giving up 124. Total defense, last year we were giving up 495 at this time, against an easier schedule, 2 by the way. And after 495 last year, 363 yards total defense this year. 7 sacks last year at this time, 12 this year. 18 tackles for loss last year, 26 this year. Our third down percentages have improved from, they were 42% last year, 23 of 55. Right now they're 19 of 52. We're allowing only 37% from their standpoint. Fourth downs, last year there were 3 out of 5. 60% is what they were getting. This year we have stopped people 3 out of 10. So we're only giving up 30% on fourth down situations. This is also really important. 6 sudden change situations, which means we fumbled. There's an interception, a block punt like the other night. Something happens bad and your defense isn't expecting to come out. So it's a sudden change and you say, defense, you gotta run off the field, get on the field immediately. And right now, of the 6 sudden change situations that have come up in 4 games, we've held the opposing team to only 2 field goals. And that's something we hadn't done well, is the defense stepping up, like the other night when Ced Gray jumped on the fumble after the blocked punt. Special teams, we were excellent in the punt return game, as we said. Noah Burnett's made all of his kicks. We can't give up a kickoff return. It gave him some life. You take a game that should be a blowout and you get them excited because the ball was kicked to the right place. We just didn't cover well. We had people out of the lanes and they did a better job returning it than we did covering it. The first time they kicked and covered. That's what's crazy about college football. We held them to the 22-yard line. And the second one's the same people, same kick, and we get out of position and don't do it well. But you can't give up a touchdown on kickoff coverage. Can't have punts blocked. It was 1 person in our shield. The shield is the back 3 people, and they had a guy reach over with a hand, and you got to block through that, and you can't have him reaching over. We're 6 for 7 on field goals for the year. Noah Burnett is 3 for 3. All are over 40 yards, so he's done an outstanding job. Ben Kiernan, as our punter, is averaging 41.2 yards per punt, and 5 of his 9 are inside the 20, which hurts your average, but helps us with field position. You start looking at Syracuse. The last time we played Syracuse was the first game in COVID, and there were 25 people in the stands. is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. The doctors and trainers wouldn't let us have our pregame in the locker room or our postgame. And since there was nobody there, we had pregame out on the field for the pregame speech, and the postgame we talked out on the field. Even the parents couldn't be there. And I remember even saying, Daz Newsome returned to punt. It was a great play, and there was nobody. It was worse than a scrimmage. There was no emotion. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I was mad at everybody on the sideline. They were looking at me like I'm crazy because it was so quiet in that stadium. So it changed who we were for sure. But excited that the Syracuse game is a sellout. Sometimes they wait to announce because if the opposing team doesn't buy all their tickets, they have to sell those before it's a complete sellout. But I know Syracuse is sold out. Miami's already sold out for next week. So that should be fun. We're ESPN at 3:30. So that should be great as well. Dino Babers is a friend of mine. I've known him for years. He's was one of the offensive gurus with Art Briles' system and just running up and down the ball with tempo. He's done an outstanding job at Syracuse. And he added Rocky Long, who's been the head coach at New Mexico and San Diego State. And he's been considered a defensive genius for years, lining up and blitzing and playing man coverage and creating havoc. And Rocky's one of the most respected coaches in our business as far as the defense. Their quarterback, Garrett Schrader's 6'4", 225, and he can run over you. You start trying to figure out, he doesn't slide much. So as you're getting ready to hit him, if he slides and you hit him, it's a penalty. If you think he's going to slide at 6'4", 225, he will run right over you. Man, he's one of the toughest quarterbacks I've ever seen. So he'll be a real challenge. Quinn Allen's an outstanding running back. And they've got a 6'6" receiver and an Alford and a 6'3" receiver in Hatcher that are really good players. So that we'll have our hands full there. Wax is a 230-pound linebacker. Clark's a really good free safety that makes a lot of plays for him. And Darton is a nose tackle that gives you a whole lot of problems. I obviously sat and watched all of the Syracuse-Clemson game on Saturday. We had asked our players to watch the game, and we actually gave them things to do, to look for during the game, to write down, like a review, a study plan for your test. And then team works them right after the game and said, this is a really close game because of the 3 turnovers that Syracuse had that led to 21 points. It let the score not look like the game. So don't sit here and think that Syracuse isn't going to come to town with a great team. Questions?
Mack, real quick, offensively, is there any updates on Willie Lampkin and Gavin Blackwell?
Both practiced yesterday. We were in shorts. So we really won't know till we watch them run this week, but I think both should be okay.
Mack, before the season, you talked a lot about how you were going to go through the first 4 games and then reevaluate during the bye week. Do you almost view this game as another week 1 for the team?
You do. You start over, and again, Michael, I told the coaches to act like you're 0-4. Be really hard on yourself. Don't sit around and listen to people patting you on the back and feel like things are good. It's obvious what we're doing good. What are we not doing well? And what do we need to fix? And how do you fix it? That's the other thing that coaches, by and large, if things are going well, you don't even grade people as hard. And that's a real problem in our business, is everybody's bragging on you. You start thinking things are good, and sometimes the perception is not reality. There are things we need to fix. We've still given up too many runs that we give up 3 runs a game for 100 yards. You can't do that. Somebody's in the wrong gap. Somebody misses a tackle. We're playing the ball much better in the secondary, but we've given up too many deep balls. Why are we not running the ball as consistently on early downs as we need to? Because that gets you back to our old problems of 3rd and long, and we need to get out of 3rd and long. Why do we have a block punt? Why did we have a kickoff return for a touchdown? So be hard on everything that you're not doing well instead of sitting around and feeling pretty good about yourself. If you get comfortable in this business, you get complacent. You can never be comfortable. And most of the teams are a lot alike. transfer portal has made parity more than ever before in this business. And there may be a few that are better than the others, but you start looking at Ohio State, Notre Dame comes down to the last play, Duke, Notre Dame comes down to the last play. So there's not much difference. I think there's less difference in teams in college football right now than in my 47 years. So you better be ready to play. You better be ready to play every week. And if not, you're going to get beat.
You've mentioned a few times in the last 6 weeks about this is an older team. And some of the things you're just rattling off, the sudden change defense, 3 games against Power 5 teams in the third and fourth quarter allowed just 2 field goals. The adjustments are being made and the kids are getting it. How much of it is their experience and how much of it is also Gene sort of adapting now because he was out for 5 years and maybe you communicate things a little bit differently now?
Yeah, Gene's an unbelievable coach. I kept saying that last year because he was so frustrated because he could see things we weren't doing well. And he's got the real chip on his shoulder, which you have to have in this business because he's never comfortable to make sure that everybody's doing their job better. And the addition of Ted Monachino helped us because it's another set of eyes that are experienced eyes. And it helps us in so many ways just looking at, this needs to change. And I like this better, even though he can't coach on the field. And Jason Jones, his seamless transition with Charlton Warren, because they worked together at Indiana, has helped us in the secondary. So I really feel like that older players, more depth, playing more guys, they're happier, they're healthier, and only the corners are inexperienced. Everybody else has played a lot of football. And some of those games where you felt like they didn't play with a lot of energy or something, that's what I've told them. You can't be a great team if you don't show up every week. You just can't. And it's not easy to do, obviously, because a lot of people, you sit there and watch Saturday and some people don't play good. But last week's practices, all 3 practices last week, were all as good as I've seen for an open date. They came ready to practice, they were excited, they worked, they competed. And that's unusual. I mean, usually they take the week off. So I'm excited about what I've seen with this team.
Quick follow-up on that. There were times in the last few years where things would start to spiral, the defense, and it almost looked like there was a sense of panic on the field. Are you noticing now like that they're not flipping that switch to panic? They stay on board. And how much is Cedric and Power, maybe even Kamen, a part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Saturday night was a great example because I wasn't happy with the start. None of us were happy with the start. And instead of panicking, they kept getting better and better and better. And Gene is he's a very confident, he's not one who's going to scream and shout and show emotion all the time. He's going to think and fix. And the defensive staff under his leadership does about the same. Chip's very much the same. Both of them have been head coaches. Both of them have been there, done that. So I'm seeing that, and I saw it a whole lot the other night. Even after the defense gave up the first 7, the offense goes right back down and scores and answers, and they're starting to talk about those things instead of me. Seems like for 4 years I've been screaming at guys on the sideline about, you got to answer, you got to answer, and they're looking at me like, we got it. So that's better.
I was just going to say, since we last talked to you, not to bring up a sore subject, but Minnesota.
But to bring up a sore subject.
Yeah, Minnesota's had a 2-time transfer rule eligible. And your thoughts on that, and just have you had any communication at all with NCAA further after the test?
Yeah, Chip, I don't know anything about that. They don't give out information, so that's difficult to figure out. And I know that we've got some really smart people that care a lot about Tez that are looking at all his options. And that's not going to change. I've been so proud of our people, our trustees, our chancellor, our athletics director. So I've pretty much gotten away from it, had to go back and coach. But I know there's people that are looking for his best interest.
Mack, would you be able to run down who you got targeted for a red shirt in terms of the freshmen, who's not for us? I mean, I'm sure this was a big thing you did last week, was bring them all in and talk to them. Like, could you list it all for us? I mean,
I'd rather not, Adam, because they may play tomorrow if somebody gets hurt. That's the problem. So what we've done, I actually had our coaches, we scheduled spring practice this week, what days, so if you want that we can get it to you. We scheduled a spring game last week, and I made the coaches give me a depth chart for spring practice. Because with the roster management, you can end up with no running backs. We ended up with 2 linebackers. And it's hurt us, and we're starting to get that room back now, but it's been a problem. We got thin at wide receiver. So I actually told them, give me a year in advance who's coming in early of our commitments, who you think's going to stay, who you think's going to leave, who'll go to the NFL, who'll graduate and might transfer. And if a guy's not playing and he graduates, we would encourage him to transfer because that would be best for him. But as soon as I said that, George may play next week. I mean, it's just, it's crazy. You're standing out there and 3 guys get hurt and all of a sudden you're saying, hey, come here, we were kidding. You need to play, man. Get ready to go. So nobody will be redshirted until after the bowl game. So you've got 4 games. And usually the younger ones, their 4 games get eaten up with special teams.
Right.
And then you have to be careful if you just stick one at the end of a game, stick him in, then it costs him a game if he's in there 3 plays. So it's not worth it even if you say, why didn't you put him in? Well, what's 7 plays worth? And then now the NCAA made a really smart ruling in that you can play in the bowl game and it not count against your redshirt. So you actually can play 5 games. And that was one other thing they said, Chip, last week, that Tez was out for an academic year. The bowl game or playoffs would be after our academic year, so he could actually play in the bowl game. Or he could play in the playoffs because they're after the academic year is over. He couldn't play in the championship game if we were fortunate enough to play because we'd still be in finals.
Would you think about doing that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't cost him a year because he wouldn't play in 4 games, but he could play.
But Tamari could have done that, right?
Tamari hurt his knee. Tamari could have actually played because of his ruling in the NC State game and the bowl game.
And the championship game.
And the championship game,
Yeah.
but he hurt his knee. So they scoped his knee, and that's why he didn't play.
Gotcha.
But yes.
You talked about making a pre-spring depth chart or whatever. Have you ever had to make one this early, like 5 weeks into a regular season? Have you ever done that?
No. I think we started it last year just because things are so different. And you're also having to look at who you can bring in January because the NCAA rule is limited to the numbers you can bring in, depending on who you're losing. And you don't know who you're losing, so you don't know who you can bring in. So some of the high school guys are saying, I want to come in January. And we're saying, well, we don't know who's leaving yet. So, and then you've got to look at, do you take a high school guy instead of a grad transfer or a transfer? So it is all over the place right now. Pat Sudis's job's become more important than ever. And I've told all of our coaches, go visit with Pat individually about your unit and your room and see what you think and what he thinks and talk to him about your conversations last week so we'll know exactly where we are. And then you have to look at injuries because you have Julian Randolph who will not be in spring practice because he hurt his knee. So in that room, you're losing a guy. So how many guys are you going to lose to injury? Who may play through the season and then get something fixed after the season that misses spring practice. That's why spring practice is different than ever before, and spring games are different than ever before as well.
Yeah, well, to offer that, and you did kind of touch on it, but how fluid do you kind of have to keep it with potential incoming transfer? I know you say you don't know who's leaving, but I guess even if you work the portal in certain positions, like how fluid do you have to kind of keep that chart?
It's so difficult because you don't know who's going in the portal. You don't know if they go in the portal, number one, if they're interested in you. And then secondly, some of those guys, that they want NIL opportunities that may not be in your realm of things going forward. So there's a whole lot of multitasking and unknowns out there. There's more unknowns for your future on your team than ever before.
Not to get too lost in the weeds of the test stuff, but to get a little clarity here. The ruling is 2 full academic semesters that he must miss. Is that what it is?
I think.
Okay, so
Yes.
how does summer school factor into that? 'Cause
It doesn't. Summer school doesn't count.
So like 2 sessions don't count as 1 semester?
No. In fact, summer school's not even part of the guy's scholarship. The schools have to decide whether they want to pay that or not. Some schools don't pay for summer school because the scholarship is only spring and fall. The university has to decide whether they want to pay for their summer or not. And we have always done that because we want them to be able to graduate in 3.5 years if possible. And you can do that by going every summer. But we also want them here to work out.
Mack, when you get Willie Lampkin back, whenever that is, what do you do with William Barnes and what do you do with Diego Pounds? Like, how does that look when he's ready to get back in the line?
Yeah, Chip will talk to you a little bit about that in a minute, Adam. But right now, we're trying to get to that 8 we're talking about. And when you play a Diego, and we're trying to play Travion Green more, he played 7 plays the other night for the first time. That helps you for next spring. That helps you for next fall. So you're actually working, Willie will be back. So you're working on next year's offensive line as you're working on getting 8 to 10 guys ready to play. It's offensive line is quarterback's the most important position in football. So we're seeing it everywhere. If you don't have a quarterback, and our league has quarterbacks, that's why we're good. But if you don't have a quarterback, modern day, it's hard to score enough points to win. The second hardest thing to recruit are offensive linemen. And we've had 3 offensive line coaches in 5 years, so that's tougher with continuity. And then therefore, it's harder to get offensive linemen out of the portal than anything else because they're of such a need. And when you're recruiting young offensive linemen, you never know when you recruit a guy that big how he's going to play. When you see a guy that's 3 years into it, then you know more about them and you can tell that they have developed. So offensive line's tough, but I'm liking the fact that we're playing more players. So William can play the guard or the tackle. Diego can play tackle. Travion Green can play tackle. We've actually worked Spencer some at guard. Willie can play center or guard. So one thing that Jack Bicknell taught us was that in the NFL they move them around all the time. They only have 7. So it really helps a young guy if he can play both places. And with COVID, because there's still some COVID out there, you worry about a guy not being able to play. With injuries, you've got to cross-train. And one of the key points to being a successful head coach now is making sure you get the best 11 on the field. So if you've got a backup corner that's better than a starting safety, that's really stupid on your part. Play your best 11 and get them out there. And then you have a Boykins that just goes down one day. And what do? You start looking around to say, who are the best 11 now? What we do, because this all changes, and it's one of the things you have to do to be successful.
Matt, on the offensive line side, how important is continuity with the coaching? You guys have had 3 in 3 years. Different coaches like different things. I mean, talk about that challenge.
Yeah, Tommy, it is different, and I mean different with the hands, the feet, the mentality. And it's a hard place to recruit, therefore it's a hard place to coach. And now people are blitzing so much. They're blitzing so they can put one-on-one great defensive player on a lesser offensive lineman. And if you bring them all, it's like the old Bear defense. When you cover every offensive lineman, everybody has to block somebody. If not, you've got help. So a guard can help a tackle, or a tight end can stay in and help a tackle. But people have just said, we're going to blitz quarterbacks. We're going to stop the run, blitz quarterbacks. We're coming after it. We're going to take chances, and then we got to get to him before the ball gets off. And we're seeing it every game. And if you can't protect enough or have that quarterback to get the ball to the right guys or get separation with your receivers, people are having trouble moving the ball.
back, coming off a bye. From here on out, it's 8 straight weeks to the end. And so what is the main thing that you want to get across to your team about strapping around those little breaks from here on out?
Charlie, we've got a great learning situation from last year. We're 9-1, everybody's bragging on us. We've just won the Coastal for the second time in our school history. We haven't won 9 games since '97, and then we didn't play as well. So what we're telling these guys is quit looking at the future, enjoy the journey, and we've got to be 1-0 this week. We've got to play our best. It's really not against Syracuse, it's against our standard. And because we don't know how the other team's going to play. We think we do, but we don't. So just go play, and don't be satisfied. Don't be satisfied with your performance. You can be confident without being comfortable, and that's what we're telling them.
Matt, I mean, obviously you want to remain in the moment, but at the same time, there's a lot of best starts since X, best this since Y. How does that make you feel personally about the program and where it currently is?
You know, one of the things I wanted to do when we came back was make Carolina football relevant again. We had won 5 games in 2 years. We'd beaten one Power 5 team in the last 2 years before we got here, and Larry did a great job. And it just didn't finish right, which most coaches don't finish right. That's why they finish. Very honestly, I mean, when you look at it, me at Texas, I didn't finish as well as I did at some point there. So I'm really, really proud that we're prominent again. I thought the team should have gotten a lot more credit last year than they got because people got mad at the end. Give kids credit for what they do. Give coaches credit for what they do. And I'm proud of the staff, and I'm proud of these kids. But there's something else out there we want to do. We said we were good. We want to get to great. I said after App State we didn't play great, so I said, okay, I'm going to quit talking about great because it doesn't seem like you're interested in getting there yet. So we're back to let's beat Syracuse. Let's play as good as we can, and let's try to be 5-0. I did look up the last time we were undefeated during a season. The '97 team was 8-0 when we got beat by Florida State 20-3 when they were 1 and we were 4 in the country. So I tell these guys in the morning that you got a while now before you can start being the best again. You got to win 9 games before you can outdo the '97 team.
How much better can you guys get?
I'm sorry?
How much better can you guys get? And is great attainable? How far away is great on the horizon?
I think we can get so much better. The defense has improved so much, it's noticeable, it's unbelievable, and they can still get better. I'm watching the App State-Wyoming game, and football's so hard. App State's ahead 19-7 with 10 minutes left to go, 9 minutes left to go, and they squirt a run up the middle for 75 yards for a touchdown. And I showed it to our team, and I said, that's gap control. I mean, that you didn't get in your gap, and then they're kicking a field goal to win the game, and Wyoming blocks it and runs it back for a touchdown. How do those things happen? So 2 plays in that game, and we're playing for 3.5 hours, and you get down to where a game or two, I mean a play or two, they say 5 to 7, maybe 2. So we've got to make those plays. We're still giving up 9 explosives because they make 3 runs of 20 yards plus. Somebody's making a mistake to do that. Why do we have 5 sacks? Why aren't we running the ball as well as we did 2 weeks ago? Injuries don't matter. I mean, if you got them, you got them. So you can't use that as an excuse. Figure out a way to do it. Do you have to throw more on first down? Do you have to get the ball in their hands quicker? Are we holding the ball too long on some of those sacks? Every little thing that we need to do. Why do we have a block punt? You can't. Normally, if you give up a block punt and a kickoff return for a touchdown, you're not going to win a game. And we were able to be good enough to do it. So we've got good players, we've got good coaches. We can coach better and we can play better. And that's the message with all of them.
Mack, what beer did you have?
Yeah.
Yes. Don't be rude at him. And
Yeah,
just
well,
get
I
right
just-
at it.
yeah.
You didn't know, you
I'll
didn't
cut
even
him
care. You see, it hit him. He's getting older too because he forgot that you asked the question there. So
Did you see the adjustment on the fly though?
sudden change. That was sudden change.
This is like, hey, some of us were here in '97, maybe me and me.
That's that maturity on defense we're talking about, right?
That's true.
Aaron, would you like to follow up?
Now that we've got older, more mature people at the press conference.
I love it. But when you were talking about 97 and so forth, it did get me thinking, I guess, what your 5th year there, the first time, was when y'all first went to a bowl. I think it was, it took 5 years to kind of get through the 2 and 20 and then to a bowl, and then a few years after that to where you guys were top 10. I mean, the game is so different now, but here you are in year 5 and you've got a team that's, 4-0 for the first time since. Are there any parallels to that? Is there any way you think that a commonality in your approach? I know then it was you got to recruit the state well the first time, and now, whereas the game's so different, it's just not even comparable.
No, Aaron, it probably is. I haven't really thought about that, but we weren't doing anything good our first couple of years except recruiting. And I could tell we were getting better because we were getting better players, but then we were having to play all the young ones, and they weren't ready to win. So we'd get in some close games, but we were having to find wins of things off the field after games that weren't wins. We'd say, well, they gained less yards this week. That's a win. So, we were looking for anything that was positive at that time. And then I think our 4th year was when Natron was playing, and we finally got good at something. We could run the ball. And we had Kennard Martin the first year, but we were so bad on defense. We couldn't stop anybody. That year we could have gone to the Independence Bowl, but Chancellor Hardin wouldn't let us go because it was during finals. And that was a tough one because these poor kids wanted to go to a bowl so bad. We were 6-4-1. We tied Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech had tied us. Coach Ross always said, yeah, you tied us. And I said, no. We were ahead, 10-7.
They kicked the field goal. They kicked the late field goal,
They
right?
kicked the late field goal to tie us when they won the national championship. So you could see there were things that were better. And you could see going to the Orange Bowl. We've done some significant things here. Nearly beating Clemson the first year was a positive. But we haven't been consistently good because we would have that game where we didn't play our best. We didn't play awful, but we weren't better than anybody, so we had to play our best to win. And right now, we've been able to win without playing our best. And I think that's where we got, when we got better players and got deeper and more experience. The Peach Bowl team in '92 is the Tommy Thigpens and Corey Hollidays and Rick Steinbachers that are still around here. But that was the first time we had an older team. And then from that point, it started getting better and better. And I'm seeing this. Larry had some really good offensive players, and we were able to add Sam Howell to it. So that got us ahead on offense. Defensively, we were struggling. And we're just now catching up on defense. And unless you can play some defense, it's hard. I'm watching LSU and Ole Miss, and 55-49 or something. It's just, and those are 2 really good coaches with really good players. How does this happen? In fact, Sally's looking at me while we're watching the game. She said, do you think people would be mad at Coach Chiswick and our defense if we gave up 55? And I said, no, they have been. I've heard it. So it's part of it.
Got time for 2 more.
Can I go back?
Yes. Elderly statesman over here.
Admin JB.
2 elderly statesmen. Excuse me, JB.
The home record that you all had here in Mack 2.0, it was sort of a feather in the cap for you guys until the end of last year with what happened with Georgia Tech and NC State. I was just wondering if maybe because of those 2 games contributing to how you didn't end the year the way you wanted to end the year, did you go back at all coming into this season and sort of, reaffirm or re-up the message, hey, we got to protect our house type deal? Like, was that a talking point or an idea that you were trying to sort of preach coming into this year that we got to get that home record back, sort of that type deal?
Absolutely. Don't gripe at a fan base if you don't play good in front of them. We talked about it with App State. You can't lose to App State and be a program in this state that matters. That's just part of the deal. We give them facts, and we showed them the numbers of games that we won at home, and then we showed them that we didn't win the 2 last year that mattered. And I told them, I think part of us not winning those 2 games, where both those teams played well, and you got to give them credit, but I thought we were satisfied. And I thought we walked into Georgia Tech. They didn't have their quarterback. They didn't have Nate. And we said, we're good. We're up 17-0, and this is cool. And you can't be cool. I look at Minnesota lost to Northwestern. They were up 31-10 starting the fourth quarter. I see UCF lost to Baylor this weekend. They were up 35-7 with 3 minutes left to go in the third quarter. So it's weird that you've got this weird combination of a clock that runs too much and it's harder to have a comeback, but you've got modern day offenses that are throwing the ball and going so fast, and defenses that get tired that you can give up 30 points like we did at App State last year, or 40 in one quarter. But kids, I'll show both of those things in the morning to our team. I'll show Boston, or also Bowling Green beating Georgia Tech in the morning, because I'm going to tell them that these are facts, guys. So when you're being cool on that sideline at 31-10, game's not over. And that's why I'm more hesitant to substitute late in the game now than ever before, because I've seen it turn. And when momentum's turning now, it's hard to turn it back. Yes, JB.
Mack, I wanted to get into a question about, you talking about your coaching staff approaching the rest of the season as if you're 0-4. But on the flip side of that, through these first 4 games with the 4-0 record, do you feel like you see enough potential within this particular team where you guys contend for anything beyond an ACC championship? Because obviously that's the first goal. But, you brought up the rankings being important when the playoffs come out and all that or whatever, so clearly that's something that's on your mind. Based off what you've seen through the first 4 games and the adversity that you guys have got to go through, do you feel you guys have enough potential to compete beyond an ACC championship?
JB, what I know right now is that Syracuse was 6-0 last year and didn't play as well after that. So I know what Dino's telling them today. We're starting over. We're not going to have the slide like we had last year. We've got to go to North Carolina and win. Our guys have had a week off. They've been patted on the back the whole time. So the only thing we're talking about is not making the mistake of getting comfortable like last year, not looking ahead, not talking about what's out there for us, looking at getting better every day and beating Syracuse and playing to that standard. Because last year, there was more talk about Clemson after the Wake Forest game than there was Georgia Tech. And that's a fact that we haven't been there enough. That we weren't experienced enough to know you better get better as a team each week or you're not going to have a chance to beat Clemson. And what we've got to do to get to some of those heights that you're talking about is we've got to get better each week. And thank goodness our coaches are older and mature. And the ones that have been here have seen us let something go away because we felt a little cool or comfortable. We're not doing that anymore. We got to get ready for this weekend. I can't wait. It's going to be a beautiful day. I've already checked the weather. It's 70 degrees. It's going to be a packed house. College football's fun. And it's fun for this community. And it's fun for these students. I'll email or video the students this week and say, get some rest, man. I need you to bring it on Saturday and come. And our fans need to do the same. They need to be a difference in this game on Saturday. But how fun is it? And it's not fun to lose. It's miserable. It's awful. But winning in college football, there's nothing better. And a great Saturday afternoon with a good team coming in that's trying to beat you. And I'm enjoying watching our guys play and watching them practice. Like I said, I enjoyed all 3 practices last week. And usually for an open day practice, you're screaming at them. Come on, man. This isn't a week off. They worked. So I'm liking this team. They're fun to watch, and I can't wait to see them practice in the morning. I can't wait to see them play Saturday.
Right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Matt.
Appreciate it, Mack. Thank you.